What a day. Donald Trump is the first former U.S. president to become a convicted felon after a jury on Thursday found him guilty on all counts of falsifying business records to conceal alleged affairs during his 2016 campaign. The 34 count conviction deals the most striking legal blow yet to a man who dodged criminal scrutiny for decades, now unable to fend off a guilty verdict in the city that fostered the fame that catapulted him into the nation's most powerful office. Trump's conviction does not prevent him from running for the office of the presidency or returning to the White House should he win in November, but it hurls the country into uncharted waters as he has firmly secured his spot as a presumptive Republican nominee. His July 11th sentencing date comes just 4 days before he is set to officially become that nominee at the Republican National Convention. Trump could face jail time, but first-time offenders on charges like Trump's are rarely incarcerated. Judge Juan Merchan, who oversaw the case, withstood a cascade of attacks from Trump throughout the trial. The 12 New Yorkers returned with their verdict after roughly 11 hours of deliberation. Trump sat stone-faced in the courtroom, mainly motionless, only occasionally turning to face the jury. Trump's charges stemmed from bogus reimbursements he made to his then fixer Michael Cohen, who paid let's just say an actor, $130,000 days before 2016 election to stay quiet about her alleged affair with Trump, which he denies. Prosecutors charged Trump over 11 invoices Cohen filed, 12 general ledger entries, and 11 checks Trump paid his then fixer, saying each amounted to lying in New York business records. To secure the felony conviction, prosecutors also persuaded jurors beyond a reasonable doubt that the hush money cover-up was to conceal or further some other crime, portraying the payoff as part of a broader catch-and-kill scheme to quash negative, salacious stories about Trump that ran afoul of state and federal election laws. Over roughly 4 weeks of testimony, prosecutors built that narrative, though, through testimony from top 2016 campaign aides, Trump Organization employees, and star witnesses at the center of it all. Both Cohen and actor Stormy Daniels took the stand to testify against Trump. The trial captivated nonstop national attention, playing out moment by moment on cable news channels, despite no cameras being allowed inside during the proceedings. It forced Trump to spend weeks inside the gritty, wood-paneled courtroom in Lower Manhattan, further cementing his legal battles as a cornerstone of his campaign. For several days during the trial, Trump was joined at the courthouse by political allies, including House Speaker Mike Johnson, Senators J.D. Vance and Rick Scott, and Representatives Matt Gaetz, Lauren Boebert, and Andy Biggs. Minutes after the verdict was read, the park across the street from the courthouse was swarmed with cameras, including civilians and media seeking interviews with those gathered outside. While several people wandered to the area, others had been camping out behind the barricade since the afternoon. One man wearing a Freedom shirt pretended to hang himself on a tree before a police officer told him to start. I think they mean stop. They put start. The officer's like, all right, do it. New York, Keith Allen, 56, said he lived in the neighborhood and was impressed with the verdict, which he deemed the right one. He should have never been president the first time around, Allen told The Hill of Trump's first term. He's a criminal. Trump also faces 3 other sets of criminal charges. Special counsel Jack Smith indicted Trump in Florida for allegedly mishandling classified documents, and in Washington, D.C., on charges of conspiring to subvert the 2020 election results. Fulton County District Attorney Fannie Willis has also charged Trump for allegedly subverting the 2020 election in Georgia. The verdict may be the only one of Trump's criminal case to go to trial before November's election. Trump has pled not guilty and denies any wrongdoing in those other cases. So, any person who was looking at this in an objective way, any person who took off their Trump glasses and sat back and said, I'm going to be honest with myself, knew that there was an extremely high likelihood that he would be found guilty of one of these 91 charges, of at least some of them. Maybe he gets off relating to the ones in Florida. Maybe Fannie Willis has a change of heart in Georgia. Maybe the Washington, D.C. ones just fly by. But one of these 4 criminal cases was going to get him. It was going to be at least one of them. We knew that. a lot of his supporters, they knew that deep down. That's why they have to say it's a witch hunt. It's a witch hunt. Witch hunt. Witch hunt. Witch hunt. So to get into some more matters of this article, I really what do you even say? His conviction does not prevent him from running for the office of the presidency or return to the White House should he win in November. Well, I would think that if he were sentenced to jail, he would be unable to return to the White House physically. I guess maybe he can be president from behind bars. Of course, I said before that I don't believe that Trump will face any jail time. The article also mentions that first-time offenders usually don't. So I said that the problem with Trump is that, like a lot of other famous rich people, or I guess people who pretend to be richer than they are, he has this real life plot armor where he can basically do whatever he wants and face no long lasting consequences for it. The E. Jean Carroll thing was kind of a consequence, a little bit, but you know, it still, to me, doesn't seem like we're going to see an actual big, huge shift in terms of the electorate's opinion on this. And really, his suitability for this office was always questionable from the moment January 6th happened. You know, no person of sound mind, of sound moral character would be fine with their followers getting mad about an election not going the way they wanted, and still after 4 years saying, I won, I won, I won, I won. We need to make it too big to rig. But I do think at a minimum, if he gets no jail time, which I said I don't believe he will, this verdict is going to hurt him with independence. I think the Republican voters are, you know, they're all doing the cult thing, so they're going to go and be fine with him, whether he's convicted of 30 charges or of all 91. But regular people that are just observing this are like, you really paid this actress so that she wouldn't tell us what you were doing with her before the election? Because one of the things that Trump was always able to coast off of was this idea of like being honest. You know, he doesn't read from a teleprompter, so he speaks in this real way. But someone who's honest would not have to pay off another person or have their fixer pay this other person to not come forward about their very nasty romantic relationship. That's just the reality. That if he were this person who was completely fine, he was fine with a lot of weird stuff that he did and has done. He wouldn't have to have made that transaction. But it was found out, he was caught. He thought he would get away with it, and seemingly has not. Maybe he'll, you know, not get as many consequences as some of us think he should. But assuming that he's able to face no jail time and also not get into any kind of actual legal peril where, you know, we're talking about like house arrest and, you know, just things that impair him from being able to physically travel around the U.S. This is going to play a very negative role on his campaign. I do believe that. I think now that he's been convicted and you turn on cable networks and people say convicted criminal Donald Trump, God, that's going to be a tough one to let roll down my tongue. A lot of us who are not part of the cult are going to say, yeah, Biden's kind of up there in years. Yeah, you know, maybe there are some things I'd like better, but do I really want the convicted criminal who spent 4 years pretending that he won a presidential election and spent over $100,000 trying to pay off some actress from telling us about his affair with her before the election the first time around? Do I really want that person as my leader? That's the individual with so much integrity and vision that's going to take us into the 2020s with such vigor. I mean, like, come on. So other people do have more to say about this than me. I've tried to limit my coverage of the trial because it starts to kind of turn into a war of words. He claims the other side is trying to get him. The other side says this, but there's no words now other than shock. We are entering some uncharted territory, as the article mentions, where you're going to have a convicted criminal as the Republican nominee for president. A convicted criminal who could face jail time, who could get convicted of even more charges in the coming months and years, because we still have the other 3 cases to get to. And if he's able to by some miracle, because I do think Biden's going to win, but just by some miracle, if Trump is able to win this time around, how is that going to play out? And like, I don't even like to do the moral grandstanding stuff with the U.S., whatever, but you think about all the people that have gone to jail over, nonviolent offenses, right? Oh, this person smoked marijuana. Oh, this other person, went around as basically being paid to do things with people, right? You think about all the people sitting up in jail for all these different charges, and the one that doesn't face any jail time after getting convicted, you're going to award with the White House. That's who the American people are going to determine should be their commander-in-chief for 4 years. So is the message, if you're rich enough and you have enough money, yeah, you might get caught a little bit for some of the stuff you do, but there will never be like an actual like moral consequence of, okay, even if you don't go to jail for this, we're not voting for that. That's a really disturbing thought. And again, I know the cult, they're going to come and say that we're just like creating this in our minds, but Trump is the first U.S. president, former or current, to be convicted of criminal charges. Just became that today. And whether he wants to admit it or not, yeah, he'll sell some t-shirts. Yeah, he'll go around saying it's all fake or whatever. But regular independent voters are going to look at this, and I think they're going to be turned off. God, could you imagine if we have a convicted criminal as and that's my thing. It's like the president's supposed to uphold law and order. The Republicans, remember, under Nixon, silent majority, party of law and order. Where's that morality now? I remember people telling Trump to step down as the Republican presidential nominee over that Hollywood Access tape. And now that he's actually been convicted of not just a crime, multiple crimes, it's crickets. I see Republicans now, the real verdict will be on election day. It's like, no, the verdict was in a court where a jury of Trump's peers, if you can even call them that, because who could be considered his peer at this point, determined that he was guilty. You might not like the verdict. You might think it was whatever, but that's oh well. So, this is a very historic day. I can at least say that in a objective manner. This election cycle is shaping up to be something we have not seen. I know I said it's going to be this boring rematch between Biden and Trump, but the things that are happening on both sides are really unprecedented. God, man, people really just the cult of personality. You can get convicted of a crime, not just a crime, but like have 4 trials going on at once. All the courts are working against him. The red state of Florida is trying to get Trump in trouble. The state where the city where he grew up is trying to get him in trouble. The red state of Georgia is trying to get him in trouble. It's like, yeah, guys, at this point, people will believe whatever fantasy they want. Hopefully, the reality is Trump faces a group of neutral people that determine if he's guilty or not in these subsequent cases, and then the American people reject him in November.